Could Fabio Wardley become the new Anthony Joshua? Now, before you start going crazy in the comments, I'm not talking about his style. I'm not talking about his physical attributes. I'm talking about his popularity. Anthony Joshua was at one time the most popular heavyweight I have ever seen in the UK. Not the most popular heavyweight worldwide, but the most popular heavyweight I've ever seen in the UK. Now, the UK audience, the UK public, is different to, let's say, the American public in that they tend to prefer fighters with a certain type of image as opposed to a different image. So in America, fans are a lot more receptive to bombastic, cocky, loudmouth characters because that's a reflection of their culture as a whole. And I'm not disrespecting America in that sense. Whereas in the UK, it's changed a little bit over the decades, but still, for the most part, the British audience is a little turned off by cocky, arrogant, loudmouth fighters. What they tend to prefer is a clean-cut guy who's very polite, who's not too brash, not too arrogant, who's humble, quote unquote. This is one of the reasons that Anthony Joshua was so popular, because he was on this whole stay humble ticket. And a lot of the British public bought into that. If he'd come out the gate all cocky and loudmouth and this, that, and the other, I don't think he would have gone down as well with the British public. There have obviously been loudmouth, brash, cocky British fighters, but they've had this kind of Marmite relationship with the British public. Half the public love them, half the public hate them. Whereas with Anthony Joshua, at one point, it's almost like he had the entirety of the British public behind him. Not exactly 100%, but getting close to of the people who pay any attention to boxing at least. Let's say he had at least 80% of the boxing public behind him at one point. And again, this was, at least in my view, down to his humble image and all this type of stuff. I'm not saying that that was a genuine reflection of who he is as a person, but that's what he was projecting, and it went down well in Britain. Fabio Wardley might have a similar thing going for him. And I say this on the back of his fight against David Adelaide, because one of the things that surprised me about that fight wasn't necessarily what happened in the ring or what happened in the build up to the fight. It was what happened in the comments section of my prediction video, because there were people in the comment section who were absolutely outraged, offended, desperately upset by the fact that I picked David Adelaide to win. Now, to me, it was no big deal. Truth be told, I didn't care who won either way. I just wanted to see a good scrap. But the fact I picked Adelaide actually offended a lot of people deeply. They took it personally. That's when I realized, wow, Fabio Wardley has really struck a chord with the British public, because the guy has come from basically nowhere, the white collar circuit, no amateur fights. He's only had, 17, 18 professional fights, if that. Yet he's already got fanboys. That's what these people are. They're fanboys. Why are you taking it so personally that someone picked an opponent to beat Fabio Wardley? It's not that deep, bro. I just saw it as a pair of novices. I thought one of them was a bit more polished than the other, so I picked the one that I thought was a bit more polished. I got it wrong. Okay, whatever. We all get predictions wrong. It was never anything personal against Fabio Wardley. You guys take it personally because you're fanboys, and fanboys are generally people that have low self-esteem who live vicariously through sportsmen, singers, so on and so forth. I've got high self-esteem. I don't live vicariously through boxers. I only live through me. I only want to live through me. But as I say, it's unusual for a fighter who comes from such an obscure boxing background as Fabio Wardley to gain this kind of support so quickly. And obviously part of it is down to his performances in the ring, because Fabio Wardley has been fantastically exciting. I can't recall ever seeing a dull Fabio Wardley fight. There's usually fireworks. And obviously, because he's still unbeaten, it's him setting those fireworks off. He's proven that he's got resolve. He was wobbled against Eric Molina and Nathan Gorman, but then he turned into Super Saiyan mode and overpowered both of them. That obviously is going to resonate with boxing fans. But on top of that, he has this personality which is agreeable to the British public. Very well spoken, polite, smiles, says his pleases and thank yous, doesn't really trash talk, comes across as quote unquote humble. This is this thing that, again, the British public really seem to love, this whole humble thing. So again, judging by the passion that I witnessed in the comment section for Fabio Wardley, maybe he could become the new Anthony Joshua. Obviously, it's dependent upon how successful he becomes. he's going to need to climb the ladder and become a world champion at the very least. But if he reaches that stage, maybe he could amass an army of followers, an army of supporters. Maybe not quite as big as Anthony Joshua, but something close. Now, some people are going to be screaming, Tyson Fury, what about Tyson Fury? Well, Tyson Fury really won it the hard way in terms of his popularity because people really didn't take to him early on in his career. Part of that was down to the fact that he was with Mick Hennessy, but also earlier on in Tyson Fury's career, he wasn't really the knockout artist that Anthony Joshua was. And fans like knockouts, particularly when you're dealing with heavyweights. They don't want to see a big man go in there and run around the ring for 12 rounds. They want to see a big man go in there and knock your head off. When they buy a ticket to go see a heavyweight fight or buy a pay-per-view, that's what they want for their money. And Tyson Fury, earlier on in his career, wasn't delivering that very often. And even when he did, it wasn't always entirely convincing. Nevin Pikage, Steve Cunningham, there's a couple of examples. I mean, even when he fought Kevin Johnson, I was very impressed by that performance. That was the first fight that really made me sit up and take notice of Tyson Fury. Because I'd seen him prior to that, but it was the Johnson fight that impressed me. But it didn't impress most other boxing fans at the time. Several years later, when Anthony Joshua fought Kevin Johnson, he knocked him out in, 2 rounds? That's what impresses them. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but, I'm just explaining why Tyson Fury was kind of a slow burner with the British public in terms of popularity. And as I said earlier on, Tyson Fury's cocky as a loudmouth. So when he had this rivalry with David Price back in the days, we all know he swerved the Price fight. But even before he swerved it, most boxing fans in Britain wanted Price to beat him. They didn't like this cocky attitude that Tyson Fury had. They preferred the more polite, humble attitude that David Price had. Tyson Fury only really started getting popularity in Britain in a big way. One, after Anthony Joshua lost, because most fans are glory supporters. So if they lose faith in a certain fighter, they start looking around for the next best thing. But also because of the success that Tyson Fury had in the United States. When they saw that, him beating Wilder and stopping him in that second fight in particular, but even the first fight, all the hullabaloo that it caused over in America, British fans started thinking, this guy's actually cracked America. It's like in the music industry. In the 1960s, the Beatles were part of what they called the British invasion, and they managed to crack the American music market. Very few, if any, British artists have managed to do it since, certainly not to the extent that the Beatles did. So there was, for many decades, this obsession in the British music industry of finding an artist that can crack America, because obviously it's a much bigger market, right? It was almost seen as the ultimate achievement of a British musician or a British boxer is to be able to crack the American market. If they can do that, not only will they win the respect of the Americans, which is what so many British people have wanted to do, so many British fighters and musicians, but that then, by extension, will get them even more respect in the UK. And I think this is what happened with Tyson Fury. Because he cracked the and when I say crack the American market, we can all talk about the Ngannou pay-per-view numbers and all this, but he's certainly been more successful in the United States and gained more respect in the States than Anthony Joshua. We can agree on that. And because of that, he started getting more respect and more appreciation in Britain as a result. There's still a lot of people that don't like Tyson Fury, but his popularity has grown, definitely. But it was a slow burn. Getting back to Fabio Wardley, there's a chance with him, with his image, with his personality, with his heart, with his punching power, his improving skills, that maybe he won't be a slow burn. That maybe he will achieve fame and fortune, notoriety, financial success quite early on. I know he's 28 years of age, but I'm talking about in terms of the stage he's at in his career, less than 20 fights. He might have the right ingredients in terms of his image as well as what he's delivering in the ring. And on his fighting ability, I think Fabio Wardley is one of the most improved British fighters over the past couple years, because he was getting hit far too much by the likes of Eric Molina and Nathan Gorman for my liking. I was very concerned about that, coupled with the fact that he had no amateur fights, only a few white-collar bouts. Yeah, he managed to win those fights by overpowering the opponents, but I thought when he steps up in competition, that's not going to be enough. If you've got holes in your defense, you can't always compensate for it by just overpowering everybody. You're going to run into fighters who are too good for you to be able to do that with. When you run in there on Super Saiyan mode, they're going to catch you, they're going to hurt you, and they're going to put you away. But credit to Fabio Wardley, he showed in the Michael Coffey fight, but more so in the David Adelaide fight. I say that because Michael Coffey, did he really come with that much ambition? David Adelaide certainly came with some. And Fabio Wardley did get caught with a couple shots, but To me, he showed a vastly improved defense. And defense isn't just about having a more tight guard. Defense is about positioning in the ring, knowing what distance to be, knowing what angles to be at to avoid getting hit. Fabio Wardley is picking this stuff up much quicker than I anticipated, for sure. I thought the Adelaide fight would be a back and forth, life and death. And I thought late on, Adelaide with a slightly more polished technique would come out on top, either on points or late stoppage. But Fabio Wardley, as I say, showed a very improved defense. His defensive awareness is much better than it was just a couple fights ago. So he's obviously been working very hard and he's a good learner. So moving forward, I'm definitely developing more confidence in him because of the improvements I'm seeing. If his success continues and he maintains this clean-cut, polite, gentlemanly image, he could blow up. He could be an unlikely pay-per-view star. Again, I say unlikely because, like his mentor, Dylan White, he came from nothing in a boxing sense. I'm not saying he came from the gutter in terms of where he grew up. I mean, boxing-wise, he came from obscurity, just like Dylan White. Normally, fighters who become pay-per-view stars are guys who had big amateur careers. As soon as they turn pro, you already know they're going to be a pay-per-view star down the line. Guys like Dylan White and Fabio Wardley, that's much more rare to have that type of obscure background in boxing and then rise up to the point where you're headlining pay-per-views. But Fabio Wardley could be one of those guys. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Will Fabio Wardley become the new Anthony Joshua? I'm not talking about his boxing style or his physical ability. I'm talking about in terms of popularity. Could he become the new AJ? Let me know what you think in the comments. And before I go, I want to give a shout out to all the new subscribers to my Patreon page. I cover loads of different topics in my weekly podcast, as you can see on screen right now, from current events to deep dives down the rabbit hole and everything in between. I'm really enjoying the feedback and the discussions we've been having on there lately. So if you'd like to join the conversation, just click the link in the description box below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.